everyone, to NYU's Rethinking Wellbeing at Work series. I am delighted to welcome all of you today. Would love to see my panelists joining in, Rachel, my co-host Neal, and our team on the back end. But we are happy to have you with us. People are still joining, and as you join, and as is the tradition with us, in the chat, please tell us where you're calling from. So, as our community is growing and we're expanding across time zones, I want to wish you all a very good day or a morning, depending on where you are, or maybe even late afternoon. I am Anna Tavis, hosting the Rethinking at Work series, and for this particular section of our series of our broader conversation about the changes in the workplace, Rethinking Wellbeing at Work series, I will be joined by my co-host, Neal Sundberg. And Neal, just say a few words about yourself and your background and how you connect to NYU.
Yeah, absolutely. So excited to be here. So excited to just be a part of this incredible series that we have launched last month, and really excited for the conversation today. My name, as mentioned, is Neal Sundberg. I'm the current director of coaching at Brightline, which is a pediatric behavioral um, coaching platform that offers coaching services to families and children 0 to 12 in the state of California. And so my connection to NYU has been through the NYU Coaching and Technology Summit, which I've been so fortunate to attend on a yearly basis for the last few years. And now we've been really looking to incorporate a little bit more of the health and well-being space as we see that really that aspect fully integrated into organizations and the work and coaching. And so, yeah, really excited to be here today. And thank you, as always, Anna, for just sparking this conversation.
Fantastic. And just speaking about how the importance of well-being conversation is expanding, deepening in organizations, especially now. At NYU, we are launching a new certificate, and you're going to hear a lot more about it under the umbrella of our Coaching Innovation Lab. Starting in September, we are going to be certifying coaches in health and well-being skills. We are recently accredited by National Board of Health and Wellbeing Coaching, so we're very proud of it. And just to share a secret, I'm going to take that certification myself. And Neal is already accredited through those credentials. But I am really excited to invite to the mic, to the screen, the featured speaker for today, Rachel Cossar, who is the founder and CEO of a company that's trailblazing in a space of, internalizing and scaling well-being at work, and has a really exciting philosophy and approach to the solutions that most organizations are looking for. Rachel, welcome to this conversation.
Thank you so much, Anna, for having me and for creating this space.
Thank you. So just a couple of logistics before we dive into this conversation. To my NYU team, I'm not seeing Q&A tab, so we're going to be asking you all to put in the chat your questions, because the way the webinar will be structured is that we're going to take your questions and engage in a conversation inclusive of all of you at the end of this presentation, as you're going to get to know both Rachel and her company, Virtual Sapiens. And so put your questions in the chat. We are also We are also going to then tell you a little bit about what we will be doing in the following series. And this conversation is going to be recorded and posted on our YouTube channel. So you are going to be able to review and follow up. And obviously, all of us are accessible, available on LinkedIn. And Rachel, I know you are as well, for additional connections and personal questions that might not be answered today. So on this note, Neal, why don't you just say just a few words about Rachel, and then we'll pass the mic to her.
Yeah, more than happy to, Anna. And so, yes, Rachel, so excited to have you here. She is a leader in the AI enhanced coaching and training space. I have had just the utmost pleasure to collaborate with her to bring Virtual Sapiens actually to a former employer headspace. And then seeing just the vast value that it brings, we now have at our current employer, Brightline, where we get to use it in our training and our onboarding to work on coaching skills, managerial skills, leadership skills as well. And it's just been a game changer for me personally to be able to utilize this incredible platform, and just so excited to introduce you, Rachel, just to talk a little bit about yourself and just what brought you here to where you are today with Virtual Sapiens.
Yeah, absolutely. And the feeling is mutual, Neal. It's a total pleasure to get to partner with you so closely. Virtual Sapiens has been around for just over 5 years, and a couple of things from my background that are relevant. One of them is that before founding Virtual Sapiens, I was a facilitator and coach in the communication and leadership presence space. So I used to run experiential workshops, really loved the in-person, whether live or actually in-person dynamic, and really still believe there's so much value in that format. But as a facilitator, I was often very frustrated because after the session, there was no follow through. There was nobody for me or a company maybe I was facilitating for to continue to support the participants in actually applying the skills that they had been exposed to at a pretty surface level in the workshop that I'd led. So that gap of accountable practice and ensuring people can consistently get access to feedback after being exposed to new knowledge, to new skills, had always, like I said, frustrated me. So Virtual Sapiens really came out of the identification of that gap, and thinking, how could we use AI as a tool to help humans develop their human skills, their communication, their presence, their ability to, harness their empathy and connect with another human being in a meaningful way. And so our platform is a practice space, a safe practice space that enables that through immersive role plays with AI conversation partners, vetted feedback frameworks so that you can really control the quality of feedback, because that tends to be, an issue with some of the more open source technologies. And then the other piece about my background that I'll share just briefly is that I used to be a professional ballet dancer. And as a dancer, practice and rehearsal is like 90% of what we do, right? Obviously, we live for the performances, but the performances can't happen at the level that they need to without the practice. And so helping people find a safe space to practice and rehearse and develop confidence in these skills has always been a big part of my life. So that also ties into what we're doing at Virtual Sapiens.
That is so exciting. And I'm glad that you're bringing dance in here, because we usually focus on sports in this culture. But there are so many different aspects of what we do that require that well-being, and physical well-being as well as mental is front and center. And what is really catching my attention here is how you are using technology to really zero in on enhancing the human. Because the well-being actually, and I want to get our audience here to think about it, that kind of physical, mental aspect of the humanity is not replaced by AI. When we talk about AI, we talk about productivity, efficiency, and even when we talk about relationships with AI, like those connections that we build, they're still at the kind of the simulated level on the part of technology. So tell us a little bit about how do you configure that space?
Yeah, it's a great question, because again, using this analogy of the ballet world, right, or any kind of performance culture where rehearsal is so embedded in the design of the day-to-day life. It's an integrated part of what you do 90% of the time. In most professional workspaces, that just isn't the case, right? Yes, maybe you have time set aside for 2-hour training, right? Maybe if you're lucky, it's a full day. But that training time is really the only opportunity you have to step away from the desk to learn something new, maybe have an opportunity to apply some of it in the workshop safe space. But beyond that, there's not as much of a design around supporting practice, rehearsal, reps, right? And by that, I really mean specifically having the opportunity to try something in a consequence-free environment, right? So, okay, I just learned this new coaching framework, or I just learned this new framework for providing feedback. And now, like tomorrow, I have a conversation with a colleague and I have to use that framework. In that conversation, if I don't have a space to really integrate this skill into my new set of behaviors, I'll spend most of the conversation thinking about the framework. And really, in an ideal world, the framework becomes so ingrained in your muscle memory that in the conversation itself, you're not thinking about the framework anymore, but you're actually responding to the human in front of you. You're understanding how what you're saying is really impacting them. You're understanding their emotional changes, right? So that then, right, you're in much more of a conversational flow, which will end up resulting in a much more positive outcome than, if you're like, well, you said this and therefore I should switch to the objective measurement or whatever the framework dictates, right? So the benefits of having an AI platform that supports practice in this way is that it's on demand, it's self-serve, it's available 24/7. It's judgment-free, right? Like the AI conversation partner isn't going to think anything of you if you try something and kind of fall on your face, right? So there's no judgment in it. And then the feedback, as I mentioned earlier, we partner very closely with our clients to vet the feedback frameworks and test them and make sure that the feedback the AI is providing is appropriate and aligned with company values and the framework as it's been defined. And so we know with high levels of confidence that the feedback people get will also be valuable every single time.
Yeah. Okay. The one thread I want to pull on that I find so interesting, Rachel, from what you said there is like when we have trainings and you're thinking about frameworks, you're so in your head after a training thinking about like do this, then do this, and do that. And without that kind of like specific practice, it's hard to kind of turn that into like to apply it essentially. And thinking of mental health and health in general, imposter syndrome, I think is like the norm in a workplace setting, and we're overthinking how we're like engaging. And so I'm curious when we think about like building confidence specifically, like how does the rehearsals and the simulated practice really help leaders and managers in these areas of like feedback delivery, performance reviews, these tough conversations that they have to have on a daily?
Yeah, so there are a number of ways that we observe the trends in our platform, and some of the things that we find are really interesting. The first go round of someone, say, practicing delivering feedback to an AI who's been told to be very defensive or whatever the case may be, usually results in like a pretty many areas of improvement. Right? You get a report at the end and there are many areas of improvement. And then the individual, sits with that and tries again. And what we've seen with the tool is that not only do people's skill levels improve, right? Because again, they're always being subjected to the same measurements, right? But their behaviors themselves become more advanced, right? So the conversations or the difficulty of the conversation can become harder and harder, right? That individual can become more defensive or more riddled with anxiety, or right, like, but the individual who has been developing these skills, again, in safe but still pressured environments, their ability to handle those pushbacks and objections and challenging situations and personalities becomes stronger as they go, right? So we see improvements in actual applied behavior, and then improvements in the like overall score as well with repeated attempts on the platform.
You know, what's really fascinating to me, if we shift the conversation from kind of generic behavior to specifically well-being, mental health, et cetera, in the workplace, that so far I've been in executive roles in organizations. It's all reactive. What we currently have is an apparatus that is reacting to issues. We have EAP, we have, even advisories that we put in, and even the training for managers is always post an issue. Even coaching for executives is a fixing an executive. So we are kind of coming in a reactive way. I think what you're trying to do and what you're trying to assert here is that we need to shift the focus to the preventive area. And that is a question of practice rather than, let's see what happens and wing it, right?
Yeah, I think that really hits it on the head, because there is this expectation of like you just learn on the job. And yes, of course, there will always be a degree of that. But to Neal's point earlier of, people, especially like people in new management roles, right? They've been really strong individual contributors. They just got promoted and now they have to deal with a team of people, many of whom used to be their peers. Like that can be like the imposter syndrome there can be so strong because yesterday you were part of the team and today you're their leader, right? And so like there has to be a little bit of space for that transition to happen that's supported, right, for these professionals. And the only way really to do that is by providing easy to access, convenient, and powerful enough tools to help people develop a new level of confidence and competence so that they can then approach their job in a way that's going to serve the real function.
Amazing. Neal?
Yeah, I'm curious about, because I think it's such a unique opportunity with these platforms to the point of like usually doing trainings and being reactive. One way to be proactive is you are collecting all of this data specifically across an organization's employees and how they utilize the platform, what are the areas in which they could potentially improve on. And so I'm curious to dive into that. Like, one, have you seen trends that maybe are ubiquitous across different organizations? And two, like how also are organizations using that data to inform like L&D, et cetera?
Yes, I'm really glad you asked that question because the other really critical function of the platform is to provide leaders in learning and the people who are designing learning programs to actually see where behaviors are sitting and where, to Anna's point, like where do we actually need to develop more skill support and development based on how people are actually behaving, right? Versus like what people think they need, right? Which may or may not be aligned. So we are, well, one thing, answering your first question, what do we see in terms of like aggregate trends in terms of like across organization, across cohort challenges? We do tend to see, one of the things that makes Virtual Sapiens unique is that we provide feedback on nonverbals, right? Just given my background. And so we do tend to see that the nonverbal scores are generally quite low, right? So the awareness of our bodies and the messages we may be conveying and communicating from a nonverbal perspective is generally low, right? And so anything we can do to, again, safely and in a non-judgmental way, help people understand some of the body language blind spots they may have is always a positive. So that's one just general category that we always see people have trouble with, just mostly because there's such a lack of detailed attention on helping people develop body language, and that really serves them. But then from a like more within an organization, we're actually about to release new reporting data that will give people a lot more granular access to, like, for example, if we're using the grow model for coaching, right? Just as an example, right? You've got your 4 elements, and you see that nobody is setting goals. Like nobody's setting a clear goal at the beginning of a meeting. And so these meetings are just these like wishy-washy things. And nobody knows where they're going. If you see that as a trend across the organization based on these role plays that people have been doing, right? Like that would be a really concrete message to like, okay, we need to develop some kind of really strong checklist or peer accountability piece, like really human interventions, right? Based on the feedback that the AI has delivered.
Amazing. And Rachel, obviously you have clients, and I can even see some of your fans here in the chat saying how helpful the platform is. What are the use cases maybe that you can share that will be kind of a nice illustration for the HR leaders who are on the call to know at how they can start introducing these types of tools in their kind of day-to-day workflow and strategic planning for organizations?
I think manager training and leadership development tends to be where existing programming has already been built out. And so it's actually a perfect use case to take a look at some of these programs that people are already investing time and resources into and see how you might layer on top of these existing programs a tool like ours to support skills integration, right? Neal mentioned he uses it for coach training, counselor training, like onboarding, anything where, you know, you as an organization have to confidently know that an individual is about to go in front of whoever, whether it's a client or a patient or, you know, a new employer, right? And they have to really confidently be able to represent the organization or a specific framework well. That's a great use case. You know, we do partner with universities, and faculty members will use our platform as a way for students to accountably practice, right? Because peer-to-peer practice is just not consistent enough from an equitable perspective, right? Like you want every student to get great feedback. You want every student to practice it at least 3 to 5 times, right? And so then you can get measurements on all of that and ensure that all of that's happening across your thousands of students or whatever the case may be. But that's what I would say. Like manager training, leadership development, any kind of coach training is a really great use case. And then university curriculum enhancement.
Mm-hmm. I just, Neal, I'm just going to comment where I see from my kind of talent management, executive development perspective, performance management context where you can practice, which is kind of outside of like coaching managers, like coaching in the flow of work. And I'm even thinking change management, any kind of big change initiatives. The blunt tool of change management is PR and communications. How do we massage a message that is going to be broadcast from the HQ, from the center of the organization, from the leader who's going to tell you what to do? And obviously that only creates even more anxiety, especially now. And I'm even thinking we should try it, definitely, Rachel, in the cases of introducing AI and what kind of psychological impact the fact that organization is mandating the use of AI might have in organization. This is just the top of mind. Neal, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, Anna, I think that is such a great use case example with even just like trying to communicate it. It does such a great job being super objective. Related to all of this, I feel like a lot of organizations, right, they're like bringing on all these new platforms and whether it's AI platforms or something else into their experience. And a lot of times what we often see, right, is these platforms are like getting just put on the shelf, like use however you want willy-nilly. But they're not necessarily being utilized by staff in a meaningful way. And so to that point, I'm curious, Rachel, how you see like best way for organizations to like integrate these into their organization, into their learning journeys that they might already have established, so that it can really be utilized and to bring out the most value.
The design of or the way and the intention behind bringing in any kind of AI tool to your stack is so critical and probably the number one reason behind whether something will be successful or not. And I feel like Neal, the way we've co-designed and you've led the use case at Brightline is a perfect example of how that's been done well. Right, we started with a pilot, we tested it out with a small group of people, and then we built out, a learning journey that was approachable enough to get people comfortable with the tool, right? Because there's a lot going into the adoption and use of some of these cutting edge technologies. And for a lot of people, even though a tool is designed to be friendly and approachable and helpful, people come to that tool with their own kind of prior experience or baggage around other tools maybe they've used, right? And so the positioning of it is so important. And what we tend to try to do with our partners is find like an easy entry experience where people can come onto the platform, go through, a series of pretty easy from the perspective of they don't have to have a difficult conversation with a really defensive AI agent, right? Like they come on and they answer a series of questions and then they get a baseline assessment. And then they're like, oh, interesting. Like I got some really interesting, useful observational data about the way I show up in a virtual environment. Like that's really interesting. And oh, that wasn't so bad. Like, and I'm surprised that I can read some of this needs improvement data and I don't actually feel badly, right? Like if we can create a series of small positive experiences initially on the platform, people are much more likely to continue to use it, right? Versus starting off with something that is intimidating or cold or feels like harsh, right? And so the design of it, the way it's introduced to people, the expectation setting too, right? Neal, you and I talked about this a lot. I think there's a big hesitation to make anything mandatory. And when you position something as like, hey, we have this new tool and you can use it if you want to, it's here for you. And people will be like, that's great, but these people are very busy, right? So there has to be more of a supported structure. Like you almost have to give people time or permission to use this platform so that they don't get lost in their already very busy days. So there's a lot that goes into it, but I think so long as the platform has been customized and aligned with organizational priorities and there are multiple levels of buy-in, right, then we can design something useful. And then the engagement percentages that we see are really through the roof, right? Like most digital tools are like 10% engagement, like it's so low. But we see like upwards of 90%. Right?
Yeah.
Which is pretty phenomenal.
I think, Rachel, couple of comments here. It seems like from the organizational perspective that the adoption still happens bottom up. This is where I feel that the organization and wherever the rolling out of this tool is going to be set at the L&D, in the L&D function, or maybe individual managers want to bring it in for some reason or other. But the adoption is really happening by this very gentle, safe, and very engaging, a readiness for people, very low barriers to entry. I think that's the power of these technologies and these tools, as opposed to HRS systems that we all remember in horror, how we had to constantly sit through trainings. So about the technology, in fact, there are some questions coming through the chat about it would have been nice to kind of see the demo. And I want to see, Rachel, you definitely will give us a link to where people can see it and experience it. And obviously, everyone is invited to our Coaching and Technology Summit, where Rachel is going to be in person. Her company is going to be there. And that's at NYU, 15th, 16th of June. But where can people actually see it and maybe do a little personal demo?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you, there are plenty of videos on our website of the different practice options, virtualsapiens.co, so .co, not .com. And that's a great place to go to just better understand some of the offerings and some of the different use cases. I can share an access link too with you all at some point before the end. And I'll share it with Liz too, so that she can share it in follow up. But it gives you, I think it's like 2 to 3 free practice sessions that you can try just to, because of this partnership. And so I'll share that too. And I would definitely recommend signing up through that link and just giving it a try, taking it for a spin, seeing how it feels.
And giving you some feedback as well. Can we switch a little bit, and Neal, please help us a little bit to the technology side. You were a dancer, not an engineer. How did you get into AI? How are you doing the technology? Because that's always a challenge to me. Who is doing the actual design for you and working on the tool side of your platform?
Yes, so I have a technical co-founder. His name is also Neal, and he came on board about 6 months after I'd founded the company, when I realized that I really needed someone on the technical side to own and drive this. And so his experience is in enterprise e-commerce SaaS. So obviously very large, very critical systems. He was really interested in the virtual communication space and AI, right? So it was just a nice natural fit. And we have a team of currently 2 other engineers. And I'll say, for whoever's interested in the crowd, we really heavily leverage some of the AI coding tools to great effect, right? Because we have a very knowledgeable team of engineers, and they really I don't use them, but they use them to great effect. And so that's also been helpful for us because we're such a small company.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm wondering, continuing on that line of the technology, Rachel, thinking about, I think there's so many use case examples, as we've already highlighted, I think, as to how this can be utilized in different scenarios. I'm curious, from that lens, thinking about the future, what are some of kind of your hopes related to the future technological advances that'll only further kind of support this work, and things that you're potentially looking forward to?
There's a lot. I think I really am a believer in finding the perfect balance and harmony between the human touch and human accountability, and then AI powered systems, right? For things that either provide more access to something or more convenience around something that typically has been hard to do or hard to do well. So that balance, I think we're still trying to figure out. And so I have big visions around what I think it could be. And I hope that we're able to really find the right partners to build and execute on that, right? The other area, this is more from a data privacy perspective that we haven't touched on too much, but I would just love to see a little more clarity around some of these systems and how we're all really designing them, and maybe a little more honesty in how people are describing their technologies. I think there's a little bit of what is it? A little bit of smoke and mirrors going around. We're a privacy first company. We take it very seriously. I just think it would be nice to have a little bit more standardization or regulation in that space so that we can all really feel confidently that people are being taken care of.
And in that context, Rachel, are you finding, at least this is what we're seeing from the Coaching and Technology Summit perspective, that the community of practice and in people who are getting more and more involved with AI and humans, merging together to produce, these types of very helpful platforms, that this community is growing exponentially. Is that what you're finding? Even though you're saying I'm a small company, however, there's a whole ecosystem of companies such as yours that is kind of pushing the innovation forward. How do you interact with that broader field of innovators in that space?
Yeah, I think yes, the space. So, like I said, we've been around for over 5 years. So we were some of the only players over 5 years ago, right? We were pretty early on the scene. And because we have the computer vision aspect, like that's always been a big differentiator for us, which remains true today. We're seeing a lot more activity in this space. AI coaching is like a whole category now. We don't do AI coaching, right? We're more AI practice and feedback. It's very different for the coaches on the call who would know. I think that people are having trouble really figuring out what's next, right? I think there's a lot of table stakes that's become very clear and people have been able to get to pretty quickly, right? Because of these new advanced technologies. But I think the big problem most people are trying to solve is the engagement piece and the impact piece, right? Like we want behaviors to change for the better. So otherwise these tools are cool, but they're not going to move the needle. And so we have to really be thoughtful about how we're integrating into programs, how we're being supported within organizations, empowering coaches to use our platform and our white label platform and incorporate it into their programs, right? Like really making it meaningful, right? Because unlike a workshop, someone can go to a workshop and that at least they were there. And that they'll at least retain maybe 5 to 10% of what was said, right? It's not the stats are not great, but at least it's something. With the technology, like if people are not going to use it enough, then it does kind of sit on the shelf, and we can't have that. So that's, I think, what everyone's trying to figure out.
Very, very interesting. Neal?
Yeah, I like the idea of like you saying they're cool, because I see virtual sapiens as quote unquote cool, and at the same time, like what's important is outcomes, as you alluded to. Are there specific maybe like examples of outcomes or research you all are doing on the virtual sapien side that has shown some maybe of these outcomes?
Yeah, well, so we do know there was a research that's going to be presented in the fall, I think, at a conference that we did a partnership with a consortium of universities in Europe and Canada. And it was more from the interview, right? Like helping people prepare for interviews perspective. But what was fascinating was that even with just one practice attempt on our platform, people's confidence levels like increased dramatically, right? Just from having had one opportunity to answer the questions in advance and know what to expect and get some feedback was already enough to dramatically increase their confidence, right? And we only, in this study, because these studies have to be so controlled, we only gave them access to one practice session. And everyone said, I would have preferred more, right? And so that was really, right, it obviously like sets us up for nice future studies. But that was really fascinating. And we love participating in research studies so that we can really have a little bit more of a backbone behind what we do. But certainly, we measure everything that we do with our clients and make sure that the progress is being captured and then reported out, because that's, again, like the whole purpose of the platform.
And that is amazing. Again, to the point that you've made before about practice pre, the issue coming up or the event happening. I'm thinking of the educational context. I think it's so important. Again, this whole environment that we're so familiar with of testing, even, and I'm thinking not just a higher ed, I'm sure you're working at the university level, but taking creating these new systems of learning all the way through the grade schools where children are put through the experience and personalized feedback before they take the test. I'm thinking we're going to significantly increase the performance because a lot of the failure I am sensing, especially in the American system, where we, read these horrific data about failure of our children to perform on the tests. But I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they don't have enough practice, and B, that we have a very competitive culture that puts a lot of stress on these young people to perform, and that could be part of the wellness, the mental health, the ability to deal with more stressful environments that I can see in Neal. That obviously relates to your business in pediatric coaching, right? I
Yeah.
just see so many applications outside of the traditional manager training.
Yeah, absolutely. I will just reiterate, I think the applicability of this is so strong, and I love the idea of the potential in the future for tools like this to be in schools to help support, like you said, Rachel, just a single session with this showed an added level of confidence going into something, and I think that's such a value add there.
Yeah. And one comment that came through the questions here that I'd like you to comment on is the cultural differences. Obviously, all of these dimensions start taking different shapes in different culture. We just got back from Argentina, and all of my students remarked on how relational, how very different the cultures are. How is your tool? Are you thinking about accommodating for these cultural differences?
The first 2 years of Virtual Sapiens was spent in R&D developing the behavioral metrics that we use to provide feedback. And we developed a system wherein we provide feedback on over 25 different behavioral metrics, but none of them are so specific that we start touching on cultural idiosyncrasies. What I mean by that is all cultures use hand gestures. They use them in different ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we provide feedback on hand gestures. We
Mm-hmm.
provide feedback on whether hand gestures are being used, if they're being used to the extent that they've become a distraction, right? And there are very specific ways that we look at that. But we don't provide feedback on specific hand gestures, right? The hand gesture vocabulary. That's very personal. It's also culturally determined in many cases, right? Based on what is considered offensive and what is not. And so we provide observational data according to specific thresholds that have been deemed to be universal, right? In this, like facial expressions, we also provide feedback on facial expression variation. We don't provide feedback on specific facial expressions because that gets into very, very tricky waters very, very quickly. But what we will provide feedback on is whether or not you engaged and varied your facial expressions at all and to what extent, right? And then we give you that data and you get to decide if that aligned with your intention, right? If you think that you're being really expressive with your face and then you get a feedback and you see the line across the video of like almost no expression variation, then it's for you to say, oh, well, then I clearly need to do more, right? Or maybe it's all over the place and you're like, maybe I can quiet it down, right? We always want the data, again, to be descriptive and not prescriptive, because we want to empower the participant and the user to reflect on their own feedback and decide for themselves how they might want to change.
Interesting. I certainly see a huge potential in that cross-cultural communication and fascinated by the gesture. I have to go back to the tool and see how that translates because different cultures use different, movements and, what's perfectly fine in one culture could be offensive in the other. And I think that is going to be really important. We're reaching the end. Again, this conversation is going to continue through our summit, where Rachel, you're going to take the stage as well and have a much more deeper dive into what you're doing. Neal, final question from you, and then we're going to close it off.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. Well, I have to ask the question because I think when we talk, and you highlighted this earlier, Rachel, which is like it's kind of it sounds funny to say, right? We are using AI to be more human, and I find that kind of like paradox very interesting. And so I would love to just get your take on how you really foresee us being more human by using the applicability of AI.
Yeah, so specific to virtual sapiens, obviously I'm not speaking for AI in general. Specific to the application of AI at virtual sapiens, as I mentioned earlier, if you think about these conversations that you're having with your colleagues, with peers, with family members and friends, there's always going to be a difficult conversation that you have to have, and that conversation is going to give you anxiety. And the reason it gives you anxiety is because you're worried about the outcome. And the benefit of having a conversation partner who you can turn to at any point and say, hey, like, I have to give this person feedback, and they used to be my friend, and now they report to me, and they haven't taken well to that transition, and their like work has been, has been suffering as a result. If I get to run through that conversation a few times with a realistic conversation partner, and I get some pointers of like, hey, when the person pushed back and said this, and then you reacted in this way, like, here's another way that you could think about doing that based on this framework that, by the way, you're trying to apply, right? And then I get to go into this unknown situation with a lot more confidence, a much stronger foundation of, again, these critical human skills, right? And I have a much higher chance of executing on them because my body has gone through the motions before, right? This whole concept of being exposed to something and then magically being able to embody it is just not how behaviors work, right? You have to go through the motions. You have to go through the choreography. You have to get it ingrained in your body. You have to go through the framework so that when you are under pressure in front of that person who is having an emotional response, you can focus on how you respond to them, right? In an emotionally supportive way versus having to be like, oh my God, what comes next? Right? Which is where a big disconnect happens.
Yeah. And I said that we're going to be closing this conversation, but Helen from NYU just submitted a question that I want to touch on before we move on, and that's about generational differences. I think that is also, in addition to cross-cultural, these are really different cultural dimensions. As we know, we talk about generational gaps, misunderstandings, and alienation between the generations. I think this technology can actually help us.
Yeah, we have had some use cases where people will design the tool to act in a way that's like representative of, someone who comes from this country and is of this age group and has had this kind of life experience, right? And because you build these AI personas and then the AI will adopt them in that moment. And so you can use it, to, if you're not a native English speaker, you can use it to practice your English. You can use it to speak with someone of a much younger generation and try to find middle ground, right? Again, it's not about like completely changing the way you communicate, but it's about finding a way to bridge the gap, right? Because the AI will take on that persona and is able to do so quite effectively, right? And so those kinds of, right, it's like when we, like, role play has been a part of training for as long as we can remember, right? But in a role play with a peer, you depend on the peer being able to show up like as though there's some kind of fabulous actor, right? And the reality is that there's just like, that's not necessarily their skill set, right? But the AI, if prompted properly, can actually do a really beautiful job of showing up in a specific way.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Rachel. I think I am so excited to have you join us in June. Thank you, everyone who came. As you can see, the conversation will continue. Please continue, following us, joining other presenters here. But Rachel, really very insightful, very human, even though we did talk about technology. And Neal, thank you so much for providing your special dimension of you being a coach in a pediatric coaching context. Definitely gives us a very special touch. And one thing I want to say is the research is just starting. I see a lot of our students, alumni, as well as some of the colleagues with research backgrounds. Please join up. I think we are going to be launching a few research studies in this space, and there's no limit to what we need to be looking at applying your research skills, because the technology and applications are racing ahead. And we are very, very far behind in terms of interpreting what it all means at a grander scale. And as Rachel said, she's very open to partnering, and we certainly hope that we will be able to follow up on that offer to partner on the research side. So do join us for the upcoming webinars, and obviously the conference that I've already mentioned multiple times. Connect with us on LinkedIn, follow. And again, huge, huge thanks to Rachel and my co-host Neal for this very, very provocative, mind-expanding conversation. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.